We're going to talk about the alliance system, which ironically contributed very much to the outbreak of World War I, even though it was meant as a treaty system to, maintain peaceful relations between nations. In 1873, Otto von Bismarck, pursuant to his grand scheme to isolate France and keep Britain out of continental politics, established the Three Emperors League. And that basically aligned Austria, Russia, and Germany together, and it was only a commitment to remain neutral. However, when Kaiser Wilhelm II came to power, as we've discussed, he did not like this framework established by Bismarck. And he no longer was interested in pursuing this neutrality with Russia. First of all, he thought that Russia was something of a backward, insignificant dinosaur, and he didn't want to focus so much of his foreign policy there, and so he just let the treaty between Russia and Germany lapse. And while he was doing that, he reaffirms another important treaty, which Bismarck had also put in place, which was the Triple Alliance. And this is going to be very important for World War I. The Triple Alliance linked Austria, Italy, and Germany in a pact of mutual assistance in the case that any of these countries was attacked. So it was defensive. In order to engage the assistance of these other nations, you had to actually be under attack. But it was a treaty obligation to come to their defense. So now you have Russia completely left out in the cold. They have now no choice but to seek sort of unprecedented out-of-the-box alliances, i.e. an alliance with France. Now, France is a very unlikely candidate for an alliance with Russia, and this is what Wilhelm II was counting on, that Republican France, remember they're on their third republic now, and autocratic Tsarist Russia are going to have absolutely nothing in common and not form an alliance. And so that there's no real threat that France and Russia would ever pose a kind of joint offensive against Germany. But this is proved entirely wrong, because as soon as Russia understands that it is being basically dumped by Germany, it does begin to court France, and by 1894 has finalized another treaty called the Dual Alliance. And this is between Russia and France, and now obligates both of them to their mutual aid. So Britain also gets drawn into this continental alliance system because it feels it has to do something to check the rise of this ambitious, German empire. And so they make a very unlikely alliance as well, just like the Russians and the French. Britain also enters an alliance with the French, which, equally unlikely given their historical enmity, and that is the Entente Cordiale in 1904. Russia, Britain, and France bring it all together in 1907 with the Triple Entente. System was Europe's solution to creating a new political framework that could handle a kind of different continental reality where Germany is now a dominant power. And so the old system of the balance of power is going to get thrown out, and we have this new alliance between the Triple Entente and the Triple Alliance. And ironically, you can see just built into this system, it has a huge liability. And that liability, of course, is that if any single power gets drawn into a squabble, they're going to drag in their allies. So now, any conflict that Germany has automatically activates, Austria and Italy. Same with France. Any conflict they have activates Russia and Great Britain. So rather than keep the peace with this system, you can also almost ensure the war, and ensure war on an enormous scale. But there's also a sense in which this inevitability of World War I is also a result of an event that's incredibly random. as random as running into somebody you're looking for in a large city. Because that is exactly what happened with Gavrilo Princip when he was looking for the Archduke and Duchess of Austria in order to kill them. Gavrilo has this nationalist fervor. He dreams of being part of a greater Serbian nation where he can experience self-determination as a Serb instead of being, living under the boot of the Austrian Habsburg monarchy, right? But instead the Serbs are scattered across the Austrian Empire and the Ottoman Empire, and the only place where they're truly independent is the Kingdom of Serbia, founded in 1901. Now, Gavrilo goes to Serbia, and there he gets further radicalized, and he joins a group called the Black Hand. Now, the Black Hand is a terrorist organization, but it was also founded by, heads of the Serbian military. So even though it is not an official branch of the Serbian government, it is important that the founders of it have strong institutional ties to the army. And the Black Hand basically puts together this plot to kill the Archduke and the Duchess. Gavrilo and his buddies are actually given cyanide capsules to take so that they can kill themselves after this mission is accomplished. So in many ways, the Serbians anticipated the consequences, right? The potential consequences of this assassination, and they wanted to cover their tracks, but unfortunately, the cyanide was bad, and, nobody died. People were captured and pumped for information. Gavrilo and his colleagues are sent to Sarajevo, and here's where, we're going to emphasize this role of chance or fate. They're lining up on the parade route and waiting for the Archduke and the Duchess to drive by. First guy chickens out, next guy throws a hand grenade, and it ends up bouncing off of the Archduke's car and rolling under another car in the cavalcade and blowing up, injuring a bunch of people in the crowd. The Archduke, is on high alert, and there's not going to be an opportunity now. However, the Archduke decides he wants to go to the hospital to visit the people that were injured. So the royal car is heading towards the hospital, but it takes a wrong turn. And just as Gavrilo Princip is coming out of a cafe, he spots Franz Ferdinand's car drive past him. He can't believe his eyes, right? And then, miracle of miracles, the car decides just at that moment to discover it's going in the wrong direction and decides to turn the car around. So the chauffeur goes to back up. And when he backs up, the car stalls. So now there's the car with the Duke and the Duchess stalled right in front of Gavrilo Princip as he's coming out of the cafe, and the fates have aligned, and he just pulls out his gun and shoots them both, boom, boom, point blank, takes 2 shots. They're both dead within the hour. This is a major international crisis. The Archduke is the heir to the Austrian throne. As far as Austria is concerned, this is an act of war. And immediately, even though this happened in Bosnia, they blame the Black Hand, and they blame the Serbian government, and they make a list of very aggressive demands for Serbia to comply with their investigation. And people are very nervous. Russia's nervous, Britain's nervous. They all want to get Austria to back down, to not be too provocative. They don't want this to lead to war. And yet Austria is thinking, well, they've got a much, much bigger army than Serbia, and Serbia has been such a nuisance. Wouldn't it be a great opportunity, to just, roll into Serbia and slap them around a little bit? So Austria basically scuttles all attempts at a diplomatic solution and declares war on Serbia. July 28, 1914. So upon seeing Austria on the brink of invading Serbia, Russia, right, who is the great imperial patron of the Slavs, Serbian people are Slavs, now feels it has to step in. And remember, Russia's been playing this game in the Balkans all along, trying to poach all these Serbian nationals into their sphere of influence. So in a way, this is also an opportunity for the Russians to curb Austrian aggression in the Balkans. So we need to understand that by 1914, we are dealing with major, complex industrial armies, right? And the logistics of mobilizing this many troops and this many supplies are extremely difficult. So that means you don't have time to stop and think and figure out whether or not you're going to war. You need to start preparing for war as soon as the threat exists. You need to get your army up and running. You don't have time to discuss, because while you're thinking about it, rapid trains carrying enemy troops are headed towards your city. How does the Enlightenment fit into all this? Well, if the Enlightenment is about progress and technology and making things better, well, this was certainly a rapidly improved system for delivering violence, shock, and awe. So this is scientific warfare, this is industrial warfare, and the logic of such a system is that everybody must mobilize as rapidly as possible, because the advantage you will gain in that first day when you show up on your enemy's doorstep with the guns, if you can catch them off guard before they're ready, then you have won the war.